everyone. I'm here with two extremely fragrant flowers. Jasmine grandiflorum, botanical name Jasminum grandiflorum, and then Gardenia jasminoides, and the cultivar or variety is veitchii, V-E-I-T-C-H-I-I. It might be pronounced veitchii. So I'm gonna do a scent comparison. I just smell them together and it's incredible. And then I wanted to mention that it's the last day of my 25% off store-wide sale. Code is 25 Wild Vale in the shop, and in the Etsy store, no code needed. So some things just never kind of make it into my deeper discounts. So if there's something you've had your eye on and it hasn't been on sale, now would be the time to get it at 25% off, and that'll be through the end of today. So we'll start with the grandiflorum jasmine, and then I want to go back and forth probably between the two, but just to look at the flower a little bit. And I have two camera phones here because I also put this on my YouTube channel and I'm doing it for Instagram Live. So I'm trying to get the flower in both frames, but I might go back and forth. So you can see there's kind of this purple striping behind the petals. And you'll also see that in some other jasmines, including Jasminum nitidum, which is called angel wing jasmine. Sometimes it's called starry jasmine. Some of the jasmines have the same vernacular name, so I try to go by the botanical binomial. And you can see that purple striping. And then it hasn't fully opened, but it's so fragrant, and I'm just kind of helping it to open a little bit. And it's almost double flowered, but this plant that I got, it was not listed as a double flowered jasmine. So really fruity with that, you know, that signature indolic note that's slightly fecal. Not like a barnyard fecal note though. It's almost like acetate, so kind of like high toned. And then that fruitiness is like a deep peach with like red grapes. And then like jasmine, and I'll call it jasmine, not necessarily jasminum, but I mean a true jasmine when I say jasmine. So jasminum genus. Jasmine tortuosum and jasmine sambac kind of have this like frilly, papery, really elegant, non-gourmand aspect. And the grandiflorum is not really that. It's very, very fruity. Kind of a deep, like ripe red fleshed plum. And some cherries, so like a lot of stone fruit. There is kind of a tropical tone, like if you mixed like guava juice with like red grapefruit and mango without like the terpenic piney aspect that you sometimes find in mango. Okay, and so now I'm gonna go to the gardenia and just talk about it by itself. So just to look at the flower, it's extremely thickly petaled, about 2 inches in diameter. So nowhere near as big as like the Amy gardenia, but very, very detailed. I love like the scalloped edges of the petals. This is the one that you find most often in Southern California nurseries. And there's lots of different cultivars or varieties of Gardenia jasminoides. This is the veitchii, as I mentioned at the beginning, V-E-I-T-C-H-I-I. And It has a incredibly milky, without being like a milky, like sort of like buttery scent. It's more like a milky, like lotion scent. Really sophisticated, relaxing, serene, lactonic, but not savory at all. Kind of cool smelling. There are some gardenias that are very warm smelling and almost animalic, kind of custardy. This one is like a cool lactonic. A vague like tropical coconut scent without the like the warmth of shredded coconut or cured coconut or like coconut cream pie. It's more like a fresh coconut, like a young coconut. Kind of watery and green. And then there was another note that I was picking up on that kind of went away that I'm trying to get back. It's interesting, it's almost like a hint of root beer. No, like cream soda. So like almost like a hint of cream soda. It's right at like the beginning of an inhalation, and I always tell people when they're smelling, because sometimes they'll see people smell things and they'll be like, and it's very superficial, like you're not really bringing it all the way up into your head. So I always take like a really long, slow, deep breath. And it's kind of like you can feel your brain processing the scent, especially as you're bringing in more of the air and the molecules into your sensorium. And you can get kind of different aspects. So at first it's that milky lactonic. And now I am getting a little bit more of like a warm scent. It's not quite furry, it's not, it's not really cozy, but it's kind of like just this like very like sunny, breezy, like a tropical zephyr in like coconut leaves, the leaves of a coconut tree. You know what, it's kind of like the scent of black mission fig leaves. So if you've ever walked by a grove or a nursery of figs, it's this really green coconut scent without, sometimes there's like a cat pee scent associated with the fig leaves, and that's not present here. So just to go back to the jasmine, which is Jasmine grandiflorum if you're just joining. Right away, it's the indoles that are hitting my nose, especially in contrast to the gardenia, which doesn't have any that are noticeable to me. This feels like a kind of more acute, like narrow scent. It's not as diffusive as the gardenia. The gardenia feels like very like almost like soft focus, like kind of blurry, like everything is going into like this very like relaxed, diffused, kind of frosted like view of the world. And the jasmine feels much more like pointed. It's pretty true to the scent of the high quality jasmine SCO2 extracts, Jasmine grandiflorum. with that peachy prune, like kind of glowing fruitiness. If I was to say whether one is more complex than the other, I would go say the gardenia is. And that's one thing I love about gardenia, whether it's just one cultivar or the range of scent among different cultivars, it's really staggering. And this one, the veitchii, it's the one that you see in a lot of Southern California nurseries. It's ever blooming. Now it's not necessarily going to bloom all year long, but it has a really long bloom time. So a lot of gardenia cultivars will bloom in the spring heavily, and then they might have a light to heavy rebloom in the fall. This one has a long bloom period, and there are other cultivars that also have that. I'm not sure why this one is like the main one that you see in nurseries here, but it could just have to do with contracts that a lot of places have with growers. But what I recommend with gardenia, so you can see that when I picked it, I took the calyx off, and you can enfleurage it this way with the calyx still attached. In fact, I recommend it. I find, unlike with lilac or a lot of flowers where you do want to remove the calyx, keeping it on, it doesn't really add moisture to the enfleurage. It's not going to increase the risk of mold. In fact, I find that they get moldy less fast than if you remove the calyx. So I'm not really sure why, just from my experience. And then by removing the calyx, you're also deadheading the plant, and so you're going to get it to rebloom right away. And so even with those cultivars that I've had that tend to say in their description that they bloom in the spring and then again in the fall, I've gotten a lot of those to bloom throughout the entire summer by deadheading them like this, removing the calyx. And I've also achieved that with star jasmine. So I'm not sure exactly why it hasn't happened with all of my star jasmine plants, but some of them I got to bloom just continuously, and I'm not sure if it had to do with the fact I was doing enfleurage on them. But as most people know, that plant typically only blooms like in the spring into like possibly early summer. So that's what I recommend with gardenia. And then especially in hotter, really sunny climates like Southern California, you want to give this at least part shade. So even when I had gardenia in Vermont, if I put them in full sun, they started to turn brown and drop their buds. So I always, even in Vermont, summertime, gave them part shade. So I give them more than just part shade here in Southern California. I'm pretty much only giving the gardenias morning sun, and then they're in the shade, and they seem to do better that way. Deer and other and rodents will eat gardenias, and it depends on your location. So when I was in Vermont, they didn't seem as interested, possibly because there were so many other green things to eat. But it was a problem for me here in Southern California before I put up fencing. My gardenias sadly just got kind of repeatedly eaten. So they were very tasty to certain creatures. So that's the gardenia and the jasmine grandiflorum. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you guys have ever grown these and have your own, scent profile that you've developed, I'm always interested to hear that. And then if you have any questions, feel free to message me or leave a comment. Thanks.